Good morning, our dear students. Today we are gonna to illustrate how to carve upper permanent canine. First, we will measure the crown length. The crown length of the upper permanent canine is 10 mm. Take your graph paper and measure 10 mm. Starting from the top, 10 mm, put a point, and at this point we draw our line which represent the crown length, the cervical line. Below, 5 mm, which represent the root portion. Then draw your midline perpendicular on the cervical line and on the root portion. Cross to the other side. Now it's time to take the width of the crown of the upper permanent canine. The width of the upper permanent canine differ from that of the upper central. The upper central incisor or any other incisor have an incisal edge, while the canine have a cusp tip and cusp slope. If we look at the canine here, we will find that the minimum width is at the cervical line, whereas the minimum width at the neck of the crown. While the maximum width, look here, where are the maximum width here? Where is it? This is the maximum width, this is the maximum width. Where is the maximum width? Or here, this is the maximum width? No, the maximum width is at the slope level. Here and here. Here is our maximum width. So our minimum width is at the cervical line, while our maximum width is at the slope level. And as we know that the slope level are not equal, so they are not at equal level. So we know that we will have two different slope levels. The mesial slope is shorter, so it will have a higher slope level, while the distal slope is longer, so we will have a lower slope level. At these slope levels, both the distal and the mesial, we will take our maximum width. Okay, is it clear? The first step, we take the width. We have a minimum width and a maximum width. The minimum width will be taken on the cervical line, while the maximum width will be taken at the slope level. Incisally, we are gonna to connect the slopes to the midline to get a cusp tip rather than an incisal edge. That's how the canine differ from the incisors. And now let's apply what we have said on the wax block. We are gonna to take our width, but first draw the slope level 4 mm from the top of the block, representing the distal slope. Here is the distal, which is longer. Measure, and then we will measure the mesial slope, which is shorter, just 3 mm from the top of the block. Note that the distal and mesial slope never to touch each other. There should be a 1 mm difference. The distal measure 4 mm, while the mesial 3 mm. Here we are gonna to take the width 3 mm at the cervical line, and the maximum width will be 4 mm at the slope level. Here is the midline. Here is 4 mm from both sides of the midline. Then connect between the 3 to the 4, the 3 to the 4 mm, and then towards the midline to achieve a cusp tip. Then straight on the base portion. Draw your mesial slope on the other side and your distal slope reaching the other side. they should not touch each other. They shouldn't meet. There should be 1 millimeter gap between the two lines. We are going to take the wedge again on the other side, 3 millimeter from the midline of both sides, and then 4 millimeter at the slope level. 3 millimeter cervically, 4 millimeter at the slope level. Connect between the 3 millimeter to the 4 millimeter, from the 3 millimeter to the 4 millimeter, and then to the midline to achieve a cusp tip. Finally, straight on the base. Now we are gonna to cut on 3 planes. The first one from the midline till the slope level. Take care to remove any wax outside your drawing and to make your surface a flat one. Remove any excess wax. Make your surface flat, straight one. Then we are gonna to draw the slope level again and cut between the slope level and down to the cervical line. Inward from the maximum wedge to the minimum wedge. Inward between the slope level and the cervical line. Remove all the wax outside your drawing and outside your lines, but never to touch your lines. Make your surface a flat one. When you finish, you can remove the third phase and go down straight to the root portion. Make your work neat and clean, and now draw your cervical line again. Repeat this on the other side from the midline or the future cusp tip down to the slope level outward. Make your surface flat. Then draw the slope level again. Remove wax between the slope level down to the cervical line, inward from the maximum wedge to the minimum wedge, between the slope level and the cervical line. Remove any excess wax at the slope level and along the whole surface. Make your surface straight, flat and clean. When you finish, then straight down on the base portion or the root portion. Then we will draw our cervical line. Take care that by this we have finished the first step. We have taken our width and the geometric outline of the labial and lingual surface, which is trapezoid with cusp tip and unequal cusp slopes. Now this is the time for the second step, for measuring and taking the measurement of the thickness. Regarding the second step, the thickness of the upper permanent canine, The thickness is greater than the width, and its geometric outline is triangular, similar to the incisors, with the minimum thickness here at the neck, while the maximum thickness, if we search for the maximum thickness, is it here, 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 or here? This is the maximum thickness here, and this is the maximum thickness. The maximum thickness at what so-called? Yes, the cervical, what? Cervical ridge here, labially, and the cingulum, lingually, at what so-called the level of maximum convexity. So the level of maximum convexity is at the cervical 1/3 of the crown, where the cingulum and the cervical ridge are located. Then we are gonna to reach the midline and connect to the midline to achieve a cusp tip. Now let's see the second step and how to achieve this step. Here we draw our cervical line. Then draw a midline. Cross the midline to the other side, perpendicular to the cervical line. Then we are going to take our thickness, but first draw the level of maximum convexity. It is about 3 mm from the cervical line, and draw the level of maximum convexity at the cervical 1/3 of the crown. Then take your thickness, 3.5 mm on the cervical line and 4 mm on the level of maximum convexity, and measuring from the midline. Connect 3.5 with 4 mm, 3.5 with 4 mm, and then up till we reach the midline. Then straight on the base portion, and repeat our drawing on the opposite side. We will take the thickness again, measuring from the midline, 3.5, 3.5, and then on the level of maximum convexity, 4 mm and 4 mm. Connect the 3.5 with the 4 mm, the 3.5 with the 4 mm, and then upward till we reach our midline at the top of the wax block to achieve a triangular outline, and then straight down to the root portion. Here we have our geometric outline, which is triangular. We will cut on 3 planes. The first one outward from the midline down till we reach the level of maximum convexity. Make your surface clean and flat one. When it is properly clean, redraw your level of maximum convexity and your cervical line, then remove the wax between them, inward and inward the whole surface. When you finish your second cut, remove the third one, which is down till you reach the root portion. Repeat. We are here drawing our cervical line, and then repeat this on the other side. From the midline, outward and downward. Make your surface flat and clean. Remove all the wax outside your drawing, but try not to touch your lines. When your surface is flat, neat and clean, and you remove all the wax outside your drawing, you are now ready to redraw your level of maximum convexity and then draw your cervical line and remove the wax between them. Inward with your knife, inward, between the level of maximum convexity and cervical line. When it is flat, then downward till you reach the base portion or the root portion. We have taken our length, our width, our thickness, and now these are extra few steps we should make to our upper permanent canine. Now we should carve out the labial and lingual ridge. We should make a lingual convergence to make the lingual surface narrower. And finally, we should carve out our lingual anatomy, our two lingual fossae separated by the lingual ridge. And don't forget to draw your cervical line contour and shape and remove wax from the root portion. Let's see together these extra steps. Here we are gonna to begin with carving out the labial and lingual ridge. We are gonna to draw a line representing the labial ridge, which is from the cusp tab to the cervical ridge, and remove the wax from both sides of this line, and never to touch, try not to touch this line, because this line I want it as an elevation, I want it as a linear elevation, a ridge. So remove wax from the right and from the left of this line, but try not to touch this line. Then the surface is sloping like you see, and you get a labial ridge. Draw a lingual ridge, draw a line from the cusp tab to the cervical ridge, and remove wax from both the right and both the left. And take care that you are not only carving a lingual ridge, but as well you are thinning out your cusp slopes. You will find that your cusp slope is a thin one, reaching the midline. Before you do your labial and lingual ridge, you have a thick cusp slopes and not reaching the midline. Now you have carved the labial and lingual ridge. We can pause here and repeat again, okay, how we carve the labial and lingual ridge. Okay? Okay. Let's see again how we carve the labial and lingual ridge. Here we are. We have drawn, we are gonna to draw a line from the cervical ridge upward till the cusp tip. And then we are gonna to remove wax from the right and the left of this line. We want this line to be elevated. We want the surface not to be flat one. Okay, removing wax from the right and left. And take care that your surface is flat. The labial ridge and sloping two halves. On the other side is flat. Then I'm gonna to draw my lingual ridge, a line from the cervical ridge to the cusp tip, and remove wax from both sides of this line. Try not to touch this line, and take care that upward you are reaching your midline. The cusp slopes before carving out the labial and lingual ridge was thick one, and now it is a thin one. At this step you are carving labial and lingual ridge, and at the same time you are thinning out your cusp slopes. Now at the lingual surface, we are gonna to make the lingual surface narrower by making lingual convergence, drawing these 2 points, 1.5 millimeter inward, and removing wax, but take care not to touch your slopes beneath your slope level. Then the surface is converging from the labial towards the lingual, because the labial is is wider than the lingual. You are narrowing the lingual surface. Remove from the other side. Take care that the surface is no more flat. The labial is wider than the lingual. Lingual surface is converging and narrowing. And now draw your cervical line level, and here we are gonna to carve out our lingual anatomy. First we draw the fossae. We have two lingual fossae separated by the lingual ridge. Here we draw our fossa, and take care that here is the other fossa, and take care that the outline of the fossa is parallel to the outline of the crown, leaving 1 millimeter for the ridges. Here we carve out with the spoon of the carver, layer by layer, layer by layer, gently carving out the two lingual fossae, and take care to leave the lingual ridge and not to thin it out. Finally, the last thing, we are gonna to draw our cervical line, the shape of the cervical line, which is convex root-wise labially and lingually, and convex crown-wise mesial and distal. And don't miss that mesially is higher. At the mesial, it is higher than the distal. The distal is shallower, less curved cervical line. Mesially 2.5 and distally 1.5 height from the cervical line. Remove wax from beneath so that your cervical line is carved out, but not to narrow your root portions too much. In just one layer of wax beneath your cervical line. And then finish your canine. Take care during finishing. It is a very important step, and you should do it properly from the labial to the lingual, not the opposite, on the lingual surface and on the labial surface, and take care not to erase your trapezoid outline. From the labial to the lingual, and from the minimum wedge to the maximum wedge upward, and not to round your slopes. Please try not to round your slopes. The finishing is a very important step. You should take care while doing your finishing. Here is our canine. This is the labial surface of the canine. We have a trapezoid outline with cusp tip and cusp slopes. And here is the lingual with two lingual fossae. And the mesial and distal, take care that the geometric outline is a triangular one. And finally, thank you.